Welcome. I can't believe that we are finally doing this. It's been 26 months since we lost him, and it's just so wonderful that you're all here. I'm really thrilled, and just both of us feel so surrounded by love. So thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
And if I had a couple hours, I could thank everybody that has been so wonderful to me. I mean, there's just too many people, and people have been supporting us, they've been feeding us, they've been giving us lots of hugs, and it's meant everything in the world. Things are really hard when you lose someone anyone who's had this kind of loss understands that. But we have just been so grateful. Looking at all the pictures, you just realize what a wonderful life we had together. And I'm sure he was supposed to send sunshine today, but he would have loved all the rain we've had. So yeah, there's two parts to that. So thank you. And today, kind of the order of business is after we do this, the bar is open. We've got margaritas and wine and beer. And there's soft drinks around the place. And also we have Big Joe is serving us tacos, and that should be great. And then we've got plenty of cookies, and there's a great slideshow that is in, you were supposed to announce a guest book. There's a guest book in the right by the bar, so no excuse. You all have to sign the guest book. And if you want to share a memory of Peter in there, that's fine. And if not, just so I can remember who everyone was here. Just this is kind of a blur, so it will be. But thank you, everyone. And I just want to say special thanks to the Friendship Paddle. It has been such a special experience for Ali and I to just have those wonderful guys and women put their arms around us and take care of us. And so thank you. And thank you to all of you for being here. Okay, and our first speaker is Karen.
There's a beer there if you want it, by the way.
Thank you. Might need that. Up in front of this large group of people and being able to speak about Peter without completely bursting into tears was no effing way. And then I heard Peter saying, well, it would be rude not to. And thus here I stand. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Karen Roberts, and I first met Peter in 1984. That was the year he needed to file his first U.S. tax return. I was lucky enough to be the CPA who prepared it, and it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Peter was a person with extraordinary appeal, tall, handsome, physically fit, charming and funny. His good nature and jocularity made everyone want to hang around with him. Always the life of the party, he had a way of creating laughter when there was none, and making even the most boring of events a fun time. In addition to being generous with his good nature, Peter was always the first to pick up the tab, always the first to jump up and do the dishes and clean up after a party. Always the first to run to the store to get more ice, tequila, champagne. Always the first to pour you a drink, no matter whose house he was in. Peter was helpful, kind, and a gentleman. Peter loved to party and loved having friends. He knew just about everyone in town. You couldn't go anywhere with him without running into someone he knew. And he always took the time to stop and say hello. Peter had a way of making everyone feel like they were his best friend. Peter was always good for a limerick and assuring us he wasn't the pheasant plucker, but the pheasant plucker's son. He was particularly animated after serving up and consuming a batch of his famous Playboy magazine margaritas. Oh, how we all looked forward to those. And then there was the somewhat innocent and naive side of Peter. He would blush when certain jokes were told in mixed company. One morning, many years ago, we were sitting at breakfast with the motorcycle group. Of course, I chose to sit next to Peter. A plate was delivered with several pieces of parsley on it. I leaned into Peter and I asked, "You know the difference between parsley and pussy?" His eyes got so big and he sheepishly said, "No." I whispered, "No one eats parsley." I don't know if it was the shock of it or the punchline, but Peter laughed so hard he choked on his breakfast. And from that day forward, he could not hear the word parsley or see it on a plate without giggling like a teenager. We all thought of Peter as the young, self-confident picture of health who would outlive us all. Much to our shock and disbelief, Peter succumbed to the terminal illness that lasted only 7 months. Jan would call and say how valiantly Peter was enduring the pain and uncertainty of his illness. I must say that Jan too was valiant, supporting Peter every step of the way. Had Peter lived a long life and had I the good fortune to spend many more years around him, I would not grieve, but I would rejoice. As it is, I have been processing my profound sadness and grief for the past 2 years. Nonetheless, I will look back on the 36 years that we shared our dear friendship with nothing but love and gratitude. Thank you, Peter, for brightening our lives.
I didn't bring any parsley. Hi, everybody. Hey! Where's my speech? Oh, there it is. That's mine?
No, actually, that's mine. Thank you.
Well, thanks, everybody, for being here. Peter James Hamilton Winn. I knew we had 2 middle names, but now we all know. They're kind of crazy. You know, Karen, thank you. I knew you'd be a tough act to follow, but here we go. I knew I'd be nervous and sad, but really I think about being happy. Happy that we're all here together, finally. To talk and celebrate Peter, you know. We're all on site to talk about Peter. Jan, I can't tell you everything Peter told me about you, but You were such a wonderful wife and mother to Peter. He was blessed with you. And he admitted it. He admitted that to me, you know. Allie, you know, Peter would always share with me about you and where you were in your adventures that you were taking, and I always loved hearing it, you know. But Peter was always very talkative about you, you know, when we were wherever we were. Always part of it, you know. Loved you guys so much, and you know that. Peter and I probably knew each other for over 25 years. I don't know if I could read, look, and talk at the same time, but you know, we were friends for over 25 years. Allie was a little younger than our boys, and but I would see Peter, you know, around town, and you know, being what Peter was to everybody and how friendly, and you know, Peter and I just were good friends, you know. Just being in Carpinteria, such a great community, and Peter was there and I'd be there. Sorry about that. Motorcycles. I'm gonna let Michael talk about that. I was never a motorcycle guy, so I didn't have that in common with him. He always told me I looked good sitting on his motorcycle in the garage. But he never gave me the keys. You know? I did that a couple times. There were Sundays where I wanted to play. Couldn't. Peter was out riding his motorcycle. So, good times though. Just thinking about that. And I always admired Peter for his knowledge of riding motorcycles, which I didn't know a lot about, but I always admired Peter for his knowledge and the safety that he took riding his motorcycles. And he would share that with me. And that was important to him, to me, and to all you motorcycle guys, whoever you are. He was into that. In 2008, I'm going to talk a little bit about Friendship Paddle. 2008, Peter and I, Jan Whitaker, who's right over there next to my wife, Christy. Jan called me and said, Rick, put a paddle team together. I know you surf and put a paddle team together. What's that all about? And she told me it was for the Friendship Paddle. I didn't know anything about it. But that's when Peter and I kind of hooked up, because Janet asked Peter and Janet asked me, put a paddle team together. Well, we did. We were told that's enough, no more people, because Peter and I didn't have any trouble picking up people to go paddle with us for Tom Whitaker in 2008. It was a wonderful experience, and I can't say enough about all the people that we met together. Peter and I met together, but Peter and I never looked back, okay? Peter took off his helmet and put on his trunks. We just started paddling together. He bought his board, we bought our boards together, and just started paddling. He loved the Friendship Paddle and everything about it. When it all started, you know, Peter's all, yeah, you and I, let's put it together. You gotta get a team together. I'll be the boat bitch. Well, what do you mean? You're not gonna be the boat bitch, you're gonna paddle too. And Peter was good at helping out organizing, doing it all, which took a lot off of me because I was very easily saying, go for it, Peter, do it. You go get the groceries, you go get the beer, you go get this, no. But you're not just gonna be the boat, bitch. You're paddling. So we got our boards, we started paddling and never looked back, okay? Now, I mean, they call us the cart boys. They can't get rid of us. And the people that we met, like I said, loved Peter and he loved them. Where am I bouncing around? Any questions? Peter ended up with several boards. I've got one at my house now. It's there for anybody that needs a paddle board. Actually paddled it today. Still works just fine. Let's see. When it comes to his business, owning West Tree, he was a true professional. Everybody loved him. His clients loved him, and he did a good job. And I know Adrian's here, who started out with Peter. There he is, right there. They started West Tree together, and and Peter talked highly of Adrian all the time. But they really had a nice business, and Peter was just a true professional, He was such an honest man. Love that about Peter. He was always on time. I got in trouble yesterday saying that to my wife because I was on time. But people are on time or they're not on time. Raise your hand if you're not on time. Don't matter. But that's kind of me. That's kind of Peter. And we joked about that, I'd tell Peter, I'll pick you up at 7:24. He'd be ready. He always wanted to help everyone of us and others. Like Karen mentioned, he was always there to help out. What can I do? What can I do for you? It didn't matter what it was, he was there to do that. Peter's generosity was endless. He was humble, with obviously love for all of us. Personally, I can't say enough of the great memories Peter and I had together. The friendship he gave me and shared with my family. Is unforgettable. There are highlights in our lives, and there's wonders in the world. And Peter was both. We should probably cheers. It'd be rude not to Peter. Jan and Allie, thank you for everything. Friendship Paddle, thank you for everything. There's another group of friends that are here. I mean, there's all of us here, but Peter took him a while to get involved with the martial arts family fitness in Santa Barbara. Yeah, Rick, I don't need to do that. Screw that. Blah, blah, blah. 3 years later, he got involved. And there's a lot of us from that group. Peter loved them and they loved Peter. It was just like everywhere he went, that's the way it was. I'll let Michael talk about the motorcycles. I don't know. But thank you all. Is there any questions? Thank you very much.
My name's Mike, and I'm a motorcyclist. Everybody says hi. Jan asked me to talk about Peter's life with motorcycling. It's my honor to do that. I haven't done this in many years. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. You can hold
I sound really loud to me. I haven't done this in a long time, so I'm nervous. And I understand you're supposed to picture everyone in their underwear when you're nervous. It's not helping. Anyhow, it's nice to hear the best description I've ever heard of Peter and his character and personality. So, Karen, good job. And Rick, outstanding. Where'd he go? He left
to the
over.
bar.
From the heart, good man. And hard axe to follow. So motorcycling. Peter existed in many circles. He was a tree professional, and many people knew him that way, obviously. Martial arts, paddling, etc., etc. On Sundays, he was ours. 30 years ago, there was a group of people known as the Italian Motorcycle Club. I discovered them after buying a shiny, red, brand new Ducati Italian motorcycle. Began riding with this group, good stuff. They had Libertas, Ducatis, Moto Guzzis, all Italian bikes. I quickly connected with Adrian, who had a bike almost identical to mine, and he was almost as fast as I was. He can't whistle, so he makes that sound. By the way, if I lose my voice, it'll maybe be emotion, but I also have a limited effectiveness with my voice, so it may desert us at any time. For that, you can be grateful. So one Sunday morning, Adrian brought his partner to join our little group and try out motorcycling. That was the first time I met Peter. He was not appropriately dressed. He was on a yellow, not red, motorcycle. A British Norton motorcycle. So he didn't quite fit in, but he had two things that made up for a lot of the shortcomings. He had a generous smile. He was just happy to be there. And he had enthusiasm and a desire to learn. And that can get you through a lot. And over the years, Peter focused on his riding. He took classes. He followed us. He had to follow us because we wouldn't let him ride in front of us. It was way too distracting to see someone turn one corner into three corners. So those days passed, and Peter improved. And in addition to the riding, we discovered he was just a fun person to have around. So he persisted and stayed with us. Page am I on here now? Yeah. He eventually got better motorcycles. I don't know if this is true, but he did tell us once that he bought red motorcycles so Jan would never notice when there was a new bike in the garage. Is that true, Jan? Because they all look the same, right? They're all red motorcycles. So we never blew it for him. We never said anything about that. But he did get better bikes. He got rid of the Norton and the British thing and started riding some fine machinery, and we enjoyed his company, and it evolved from just Sunday morning rides to trips. And some of the best trips I've had in my life were motorcycling trips with a lot of the guys, or sometimes just Peter, but as long as he was there, it was always a good trip. And as the trips evolved, we did some camping trips. I want to tell you a couple secrets about Peter that you may not know that we learned camping with him. If you go camping and riding with someone, you learn a lot about them, because at night around a campfire, there's not much else to do but talk and drink tequila, beer, talk. So, two things about Peter. He was a gadget freak. Every trip we went on, he had a new Leatherman tool or Swiss Army knife or something. He loved his gadgets. So that was an idiosyncrasy. An even better one was campfires. Everybody likes campfires, right? We'd get to a campground, Peter would go off to gather firewood, usually returning with a tree. Sometimes a tree that had already fallen, but if necessary, he would push them over and drag trees back. And he was not satisfied with a campfire unless it was identified by the satellites that look for forest fires. In which case, the park rangers would come and talk to us about our fire safety. Lee will remember, I think we almost got caught or kicked out of a campground once because of the extreme fire that you created. Yeah. Loved his campfires, and we had a lot of fun around the campfires, and our trips got more elaborate and longer. And in 2018, I was fortunate to take the trip of a lifetime for me and spend 10 days chasing around Norway with Peter, trying to chase down Reg Pridmore, a retired motorcycle racer. And of course we couldn't do that, but we did have a lot of fun times. Twisty mountain roads, sheep on the roads. It was just sheep on the roads. So, no parsley. There's no parsley that goes, by the way. And tunnels. There are tunnels 18 miles long in Norway, and you can go over 100 miles an hour in a tunnel if you want to, which I know Peter did that because I saw him in my mirror right behind me when we did that. And we survived that. They're actually quite safe. I could go into detail, but you think about a tunnel, there's no cross traffic, no animals, just a tunnel. But the Norway trip was one of the highlights of my life. And I look back on it fondly, and I think half the photos in my personal photo album are from that trip. And most of them have someone with a big smile and a happy face. That was Peter, all over. And I think that's about all I have to say, except I do want to share with you all the last message I got from Peter. He and I unfortunately shared a journey through cancer treatment. Mine had a different outcome, I'm happy to say. But some of that was due to Peter. He kept my spirits up, and he was a good trooper. And the last message I got was, I'm doing good despite being back in the hospital. Best place to get the right treatment and drugs. I know I've had a few setbacks, but I will persevere and kick ass very soon. Thank you for your faith in me. It means a lot. Cheers. So in the darkest of times, Peter set an example that I hope to carry of approaching life with enthusiasm, being optimistic and cheerful as much as you can. And remember, the glass is not half empty. The glass is half full, and you need to finish it so Peter can refill it for you. And I'm not going to go on about the pheasant club. Thank you all.
Wow. This is great. I'm Steve Campbell. Jan asked me to come just to talk a little bit about the friendship paddle. That was my connection to Peter. Rick did a pretty good job of the friendship paddle. I can probably fill in some blanks, but I'll do a quick, I think probably everybody knows, or not everybody, but in case there's some here who don't know what the friendship paddle is, it's a nonprofit that selects person locally who's having a major life-threatening health issue. And we get together, we get boats together. There's every year, it's pretty much the same group, but every year we bring in a new team, like Peter's team, which happened in 2008 for Tom Whitaker. Tom, of course, local Carpinterian. We usually go out to the islands, spend the night. There's a celebration the night before, and I say celebration with a capital C. And then the next morning, the group gets up and we paddle back across the channel, and we are greeted by the honoree and family and friends on the beach as we come in. If you've been there, you've seen it. It's a emotional, great thing. So Peter, of course, thought that was great. The first paddle he did along with Rick, in support of Tom. After that, despite our effort to try to talk him out of coming back because we thought he was kind of annoying. That's not true. Every year Peter was there and he was all in. He was so into it, he even made his own sweatshirt up. I got it printed because we wouldn't make him one. So every year, so from 2008, so the last, was that 12 years, he was there every year, and he raised money, supported whoever we were supporting, full on, 100%. Was like he's been described very much better than I'm describing him, the light of the party, and contributed to our event in a huge way. The strength, the connection that he and Rick had over the friendship paddle was just a beautiful thing to see. And as Rick mentioned, they became known as the Carp Crew, right? And even though, and I'm sorry, Doug, they always ended up on your boat. Doug Henry, Captain Doug, captain of the Marine Star. There's also a gentleman, Patrick McDermott. I don't know if he's here today, but Patrick unfortunately got assigned to that boat also and had to come back every year. The thing about Marine Star that's kind of interesting that ties into their fun was that apparently a boat's really easy to fall off of, especially at night. And it happened a lot, we hear. Nobody died, so that's good. Every year Peter was a great addition. He was a cheerleader for the paddle. And he taught us, the concepts you've heard. It would be rude not to. You've heard that already. Usually when I heard it, was, if we asked him, do you need another beer? Bloody hell was something I heard every once in a while. And the other one was fun. That was Peter. So here comes 2020, and we're getting ready to do our paddle, or organize it to select an honoree, which usually happens around March or so, and we do our paddle in September, thereabouts. And Peter is diagnosed not too many months before that, and the board does the selection process, and of course Peter he's one of us. We're going to paddle for him. We all decided that. Peter got wind of that ahead of time. We hadn't told him or talked to him about it, and he comes barge into my office one day. My office was right on the corner from his shop, so he would barge into my office all the time, uninvited, and he said, I heard that you guys are going to select me. I don't want to do it. I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, I'm sure there's somebody else who needs it more than me. Don't do this. And I go, I said, bloody hell. This isn't about you. This is about your friends and your family who are looking for a way to support you. And this is why we're doing it. We're not doing it for you. And so we need this as our outlet to support you emotionally and spiritually. And so I said it would be rude not to accept it. So anyway, he got it. He said, okay. So that, of course, that was spring of 2020. All hell was breaking loose. We were able to have a few in-person get-togethers, and that, was limited, and the friendship paddle event wasn't how I just described it. There wasn't a celebration night before. We did a virtual paddle. I think that overall we tracked our miles and we paddled the whole, circumnavigated the British Isles collectively, which was kind of cool, by tracking the number of miles. Made a little poster of that. But part of the fun we had, I'll just wrap it up here, that included a really fun gathering one morning in August. Peter was really sick by that time, but he, as he does, said, let's get together and do something. How about this Sunday we meet at Rick's driveway and we'll go for a paddle, bring some friends, and we'll have something to eat afterwards. And so we met at Rick's, we went down to Jelly Bowl, we paddled partway to Rincon. It turned out there was about 20 of us, 25 of us that all came to support Peter. There's a great photo on the beach that Dave Paldrell took. We went back to Rick's driveway and had an elegantly catered meal of beer, burritos, and donuts. And we didn't know it at the time, but it was the last time most of us saw Peter. And a few weeks later, he was gone. But we had a fun gathering at the Joy's driveway, and that was it. So it was a great send-off for Peter. That's it.
Motion and turning all the nighttime into the day. And after all the violence and double talk, it's just a song ain't only trouble and the strife. You do the walk, yeah, you do the walk of life. You do the walk of life.
My name is Gail Young, and it's horrible to be the last speaker because the bar is set so high with these other four that I'm just going to try to bring it down really low. And I'm going to start by asking if everybody can hear me if I step away, because there's something about this mic it's so phallic that I'm not sure if I'm repelled or attracted to it. And so,
Can everybody hear me? My husband will tell. No? Perfect.
all right, so if you see me getting too close to it, you might walk Bob to the car. So anyway, I'm going to start because I'll forget, I want to start by telling Rick. Is he here? Okay, Rick. So we talked about Allie and Jan, and boy, Una Lulu was the light of Pete's life. He loved her like a hog loves corn. And Jan, he just said you were good in bed. That's what he always told me. So I know Pete. I believe that, and Adi, you can confirm this, I think I was the second person that you and Pete met when you came to Santa Barbara, when Ron Caird imported them from the mother country and brought them to work in America for a tree company, for Griffin Tree and Landscape. And I think I met them on the second day after Ron picked them up. So I've known Pete for a really long time. And we all worked at Griffin Tree together. And I can just tell you, there is no way in a million years you could have told me that I would be standing here talking story about that guy without him standing behind me, with a clothespin attached to my back that says "kick me," or toilet paper streaming out the back of my pants, or something going on, rolling his eyes at whatever story I'm going to tell. So I can tell you, I feel Pete. Hey, the gift.
Where's Chris?
Hello. Oh, there it is. I can tell you right now that I feel Peter everywhere. I see him in every single one of your faces. And he is here. He is flying around every time the wind blows, every time the leaves fall, the sun came out. That's Peter. So, Jan asked me to tell a little story. You guys have thousands of stories, right? Uh-oh. Just in case. You guys all have thousands of stories. So I have just one that is one of our favorites. And Pete and my relationship, and Adrian also, it was predicated from day one on pranks, right? Pete was a jokester. And we were constantly punking each other all the time at work, all the time. So, and it was a continuous back and forth. So this one particular story, I was at my boyfriend, now husband's, house having a sleepover, practicing for the future. And you guys all know what flocking is, right? Not what we were practicing. With the L, flocking. Does everybody know what a flocked Christmas tree looks like? It's the fake snow, and there's machines that guys at Christmas tree farms spray on the trees, or they spray on their plants. So Pearl Lamar Nursery had a flocking machine. So while I was over at my future husband's house getting a proper flocking, now, and I want you guys to all just close your eyes for 1 second and just picture this. Not that part. Don't picture that part. But picture this. So it was Adrian and Pete and Jan and Joan. They went over to Port Lamar and got that fucking flocking machine. And they went to my little house on Alta Vista Road and they flocked my house in the middle of the night. In July, yeah. I mean, not that it snows that much in Santa Barbara anyway, but this was July. And it was my little house, and they completely flocked that fucker. They did the top to bottom, the lawn. They flocked my truck, my tree truck that I had to take to work. All the windows, all the doors. The house was completely dark inside because the windows were flocked. So imagine July driving home from Bob's house, and he drops me off in front because, of course, he knew about it. In the middle of the block is a snowed house in July in Santa Barbara. And they were so proud of themselves. I don't even know how long it took you guys. How long? It had to have been all night. I mean, there's pictures that have headlamps and flashlights, and the flocking machine is going all over the house. And so, those kinds of things cannot go unanswered. Yeah? But the best way with payback is you don't do anything right away. You just wait. Because there's that terrifying moment where you think it's going to come any time. She's going to pay us back any time. We're just waiting. We know it's... And I just sat on it and waited and waited and waited. And because I was such an important person at Griffin Tree, I had all the keys to everything. So I waited a few weeks, and then I went in one night on a weekend, fully armed with beautiful pink paint, spray paint, and glitter. And I got into their tree lockers. And tree work is a manly sport, right? Very manly. So I went into 80 and Pete's lockers, and I sprayed every single piece of tree climbing equipment, every rope, every chainsaw, every pole pruner, every handsaw, all their harnesses, every single thing in their lockers, pink. And then dusted it with about 30 pounds of glitter. so it was impossible to clean up. And so, Pete, I know you're here with us. I still think I owe you, but 80's here, so there's still time. And I'm telling you, Pete, we love you so much and we miss you so much. There he is. Yeah? And so this toilet paper was not for me to start crying, but I'm going to honor you with putting it in the back of my pants. And I'm gonna wear it around all day. Just for you, Pete.
I listen to the wind of my soul. Where I'll end up, well, I think only God really knows. I've sat upon the setting sun, but never, 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 I never wanted water once.
Well, thank you, my fabulous 5 speakers. And now it's time to eat. The Big Joe and his crew is over there. Whoops. And then the bar is open. And then after that, there's cookies and slides to be seen and time to tell a lot of Peter's stories. So thank you, everybody, for being here.
I let my music take me where my heart wants to go. I swam upon the devil's lake, but never, 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 I'll never make the same mistake. No, never, never, never.